Special budget meeting of council to order Monday, January 24th, 2022. Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor
As presented.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. In favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. New business. 3.1 waiver of policy E08, excuse me, council budgeting process. Report from the Chief Administrative Officer dated January 24th, 2022 to request council waive policy E08, council budgeting process for capital and special projects to allow for accurate information to be presented to council for budget deliberations. Recommendation? Councillor Nobre.
There we go. That council waive policy EO-8 council budgeting process to ensure accurate costing is available for budget deliberations, and that the capital and special project budget be presented on February 28th, 2022.
Seconder. Councillor Korkalka. Discussion? Just have a quick question, Ms. Thompson. February 28th, do you believe that will be the earliest opportunity? Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Trent. We do believe that in order to have everything processed that we need to process and have accurate costs, that is the earliest that we're able to bring it to council, because we're also trying to finish year end at this time as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so February 28th was operations as well, so is the plan for both operations and capital projects together?
Correct.
Okay. If possible, it would be great to have as much lead time as possible. There'll be a lot of information there, and council will definitely need some time to digest it. Any other questions, concerns? Councilor Korkalka?
Yeah, can we not move the operationals a week after? I think it's too much. I mean, when we're talking budget, you got capital and all that, and operational at the same time. And they need to be split up. They have to split up for a reason. And I think it gives council a chance to go through it, if there's questions and so on. But I think it's wrong to try and combine them. I understand staff's tried, had to bring it forward, that they had to push this one off, and that's fine with me. But to try and combine them now, I think that's the wrong way to go at it.
I think it's going to be very ambitious to try and get through it all in 3 hours, certainly. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. We will have it available at the same time. It doesn't mean that council has to deliberate at the same time. I think the goal is to still get through capital that night, but still have operational available for council to review for the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we can add it to the next regular meeting of council at the end to start having discussions on operations. So we'll have them available, but at this time there was no expectation that council would get through both capital and operational the same evening.
Right. Okay. So looking at the schedule then, February 28th. So our next regular meeting is March 7th. We'll be able to place the item for operations on March 7th.
Correct.
And then again, if needed, we can just continue adding it to the next agenda, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Okay. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 3.2, council initiatives and capital projects. Report from the Chief Administrative Officer dated January 24th, 2022 to request council provide items that need to be included to the capital and special projects for 2022. Recommendation, please. I'll move for discussion. Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor, like to start? I understand these are the items that were discussed in 2021 around budget time, but we have either let it go, or capacity was not there, or we just haven't got a report back from staff yet. So This list here on page 5, I think we need to go through and really decide if it's priority or not. And just one last item is, all of these items on page 5 are not listed on our 2021 strat plan. So these are all extras. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. We'll start with the first one there, the perimeter trail development. I know Councillor Kukalka is pretty adamant about this. I think we should at least start with some of it. I truly believe we should have the Monkman RV Park connected to our town, even if that's all we do, if budget allows. And I know there was some concerns on where it would happen on the south end of town, but you know, to connect to the ball diamonds as a good walking path to walk your dogs and throw the ball out there, I think there's a lot of benefits. So I think that should be maybe considered as, even if we just tackle it into sections instead of doing it all as one, and then we can discuss on lighting and all that later on. So
Yeah, I do agree. I think, thank you for Councillor Kukalka for bringing this forward last year, and I do think it would add a lot to the community. It does seem broken at the moment, the trail system, but yeah, I do agree with you, Councillor. Councillor Norbury.
No, I was wanting to talk about it, if not.
Okay. Councillor Kukalka.
Yeah, so I appreciate Councilor Majinski there, but my other thought there is, I guess, just from staff side, I know there was some concern in regards to along the highway, just making sure we had enough leeway there. And I'm just curious, I know that was something that was still asked for staff to do, to reach out to highways to make sure we had the right of way for enough space to run that trail that way as well. I'm just curious if we've heard back from highways.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. Staff did reach out, and there would be enough room there. We had worked with Urban Systems earlier in the year as well. They had reached out to Modi. I don't have a written response from Modi, but we would have room there. Another option is to bring it inside even further, so that it would delay anything with getting permits through Modi, but the permits through Modi would take additional time. We'd be able to shift it inside and connect it up basically through the interpretive trail.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Councillor. Councillor.
Yeah, thank you for that, Your Worship. Yeah, and I wouldn't be in support of coming along that interpretive trail. I think that's something totally opposite. I think that's a standalone trail that was built and stuff by the community force for the community and the residents and the visitors. So it doesn't mean we can't get into discussions. So I understand Councillor Majinski bringing this forward, but I just want to talk about this 3D priority chart. And we say, oh, these things aren't on there. And no disrespect to staff, no disrespect to council. But most of these items are general staff. There's not the items from council. So I think we talk about two different things here when we talk about the priorities chart. That is direction brought forward by staff or through what we must do in regards to some things from the government and so on. But really and truly, when you look through the chart, yes, there's some direction from council saying, well, we want to look at the community, or sorry, the district land development stuff. Some of that was directed by council, but that's not, to me, councillor initiatives, which council initiatives and capital projects is something totally opposite. But I actually also think that, yeah, I love the idea of trying to continue this trail system. To me, as the previous councils that sat up here have always tried to do or started, just didn't have a map. But my other thing there is, you hear that staff's at capacity. To me, there's things going on within the community that I think I would be very careful of what we add as council initiatives and or capital projects. To me, there's some things that I'd like to see staff finish in 2022, so that, you know, there's, I don't know if you want to call it cleanup or whatever it is, or stuff that has been started and they were unable to finish, whether it was the staffing concern, weather, materials, COVID, whatever we can say. But to me, I think we also got to think that we should have some of that stuff cleaned up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I did bring with me the fuel list here, the open meeting fuel, just for reference as well. Lighting of existing trails, I think is still on our radar as far as priority goes. Councilor
Yeah, I
Krukowski.
think there should always be something that staff's looking at, whether it's grants or whatever. But I mean, there's BC Hydro, obviously staff's been in contact with BC Hydro, it's not something they're willing to do anymore. I don't know if there's a different way that we can solicit it, the concept of what we already have with lights on the back of their posts. Obviously they're owned by BC Hydro, so whether we're talking to the wrong individuals or need to bring them to town to show them that it's already there, we just want a couple more at it. If not, there is some dark trails that we should be, again, it should be a project as it goes along. And I believe in previous budget of 2021, there was a trail budget already there for staff to use. I'm not sure what they've done with that or what they've looked at yet, but again, I'll be waiting for that to come in February 28th.
Okay. Councilor Norbert?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Yeah, I think the lighting of existing trails needs to stay on the radar. And I think we should be maybe putting it on that strategic priority chart somewhere, because some of these items are wants, they're not really necessities, but I think with the lighting, it can add to safety for people. And when you're talking about safety, that shouldn't be well, let's think about it. I think that should be a core part of it, right? Gets early on at night, people still want to be able to use these trails and know what's out there. So I think we should keep that kind of.
I agree. Councilor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering what our options are for lighting, whether or not we can rely on solar, or if we run hard power to all these lights. And I think instead of trying to chase BC Hydro and seeing if we can get on their poles, just put our own poles in, much like Chetwynd had done. And then I'm not sure if you run power to all the trails, then where do you put, you should be able to put the lights wherever you want, and the same thing with solar. I'm just wondering about the cost differential between the two.
Absolutely. I did see on the priority or strat plan, community services did have a pathway system looked at. Ms. Thompson, do you have an update on that at all? As far as there was a report done or a master plan worked on?
Thank you, Member Trent. We have the Parks and Trails Master Plan, and that is not something we have looked at, and that is due to capacity, and that I didn't have full staffing at the community center, and we've just been managing over them.
Okay, so this one here, the pathway system, that's refers to the trails master plan. Okay, thank you.
Interior to the community.
Right. And that master plan includes maintenance? Or no? No? Okay. Thank you. Councilor Krukowski?
So just on that, when Councilor Lehman talks in regards to lighting and stuff like that, I believe staff did reach out to Chetwynd. I think there was a discussion I had with their CEO, and I could be wrong. She can correct it, but I think there were some concerns and they were waiting for some more information to come back or to dig some more information out in regards to the lighting that Chetwynd used. That was one of the ideas I threw out there, like, you go by there in the evenings in Chetwynd when you're traveling the highway or you're going for hockey or whatever. I think they did a great job in the lighting their trailway, but I think they did reach out to Chetwynd. I think there was just waiting for some more information, but I could be wrong.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. We do have information from Chetwynd. It was on the cost and what they had used for lighting. And so we do have information from them on their lighting. And from what we had originally expected the cost to be versus what Chetwynd had provided for their pricing, Chetwynd's was quite a bit lower than what we had received for information for our lighting. So it is definitely something to look into, and it gives us a better idea of where the costs will be.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Majinski?
If Councillor Krukowski has a follow-up, then I'll let him speak first, and then I have one other concern I may have.
Sure, Councilor Krukowski.
So just on that, I'd like to hear from staff, like we hammer BC Hydro, I totally get it, and I believe staff has done it, and staff is probably exhausted going back to them in regard to to the concept that Councillor Howell brings forward all the time about adding these lights to the back of the post. Is it worth having BC Hydro come in as a delegation or come in and have a tour so they can see that they are already being done by them in the past? And how do we do it now? I get it's their post, blah, blah, blah from them, but maybe they don't realize that we actually already have them. Yeah, I get they have the service guys that come up, they see them, but we're not dealing with service techs that come to Tumble Ridge, we're dealing with the office people. And maybe they're unaware that we actually already have it. Because I remember when there was a concern on the highway, there was a local jogger in our community. It was always dark out there with Sharon. She actually went to BC Hydro. It was actually suggested by the council that was sitting at the time. And that's how we got those light standards on the highway. It was from a resident. So I just don't understand. I mean, I get staff gets exhausted going back to them every time we ask them to. But, you know, maybe we need to bring them up here and, you know, maybe meet ahead of time so that we can show them what we're talking about. I don't see it as a big issue. And I don't believe it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they supply that light for free. I would think that's on our power.
I would think so. Ms. Thompson, can you explain to us your deliberations with BC Hydro and, excuse me, do you believe a delegation would help?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So we've spoken with Bob Gammer. He's our representative of the area. He's quite familiar with the area. He understands what had been done in the past. He said it is not BC Hydro's policy to do that now. And there is also some concern as well that if we would go ahead with something like that, if they would allow it, that we would actually be responsible for replacement of the poles or a portion of the replacement of the poles as well. And then we would have to pay to put the hydro lights up as well. And we do pay monthly for our power bill on those lights that are on the back sides of them. I've spoken with Mr. Gammer numerous times throughout the year, last year, and you know, trying to figure things out, and the answer is still no, because that is no longer their policy. So what might have happened before, they're not willing to continue because it is outside of their scope and their policy now.
Mm-hmm. It seems like we need to develop our own solution, I would think. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. In talking about the perimeter trail, and we did have a assessment on our bear walks, and that's another spot I think that we should look at having lighting as well, not just on our perimeter trail. A lot of these connectors between different neighborhoods is probably pretty important as well. So we're going to be opening up a couple more cans of worms here if we want to have those up to par, and then digging up the grounds and putting in the lighting. We should probably do that before we start paving into these bear walks and stuff like that, if we have to get a line in, right? So just another consideration. It's gonna maybe be a topic if we're gonna go ahead with lighting, and then if we're gonna consider doing the perimeter trail expansions, because why would we do part of the lighting now and then later on do an expansion on the perimeter trail and then have to put in lighting again? You know, so kind of like I understand, like I said earlier, to do just a section of it, but if we do, we should do the lighting all at the same time.
Yeah, I do see the need of it. Definitely increases safety. We do have a lot of walkers in the community. Okay, I think we'll move on. I think we've identified that those are still priorities. Report on expansion of gym facility. So this really hinges on the childcare application. And so as from what I understand, that application goes in February or March, is it, Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. The application was submitted already. We will find out results of the success of our application or not at the end of March.
The end of March, okay. Councillor Nobre?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I agree in that regard, you know, the expansion of the gym facility. But with this discussion item, there's also a little bit of the idea of expansion of recreational options for people in our community. And that's something that I would like to see. I know staff is busy, so we'd be, you know, put it at the end of our next function. But I would like to see more options for people in, especially wintertime activities. Like ice activities are great, but not everyone skates, not everyone uses the ice. So things like, indoor walking tracks or some, way to extend our soccer season into the fall when it gets too cold, like, let's see if we can find something.
Okay, I think that might be a good topic to bring up for tomorrow evening's discussion there. Councillor Howe?
We're about thinking about doing an expression of interest on the gym. So like, put out an expression of interest to see if anybody wants to purchase all the equipment that's in the gym. Get rid of it all out of there, let somebody take it on as a private business, and then you've got your space already created for the daycare. The gym wasn't in there. Is there any flavor around council to look at doing something like that, get out of the gym business altogether? I mean, like, again, it could be, I know that we're waiting on this application for the childcare building, and it'd be great if we get it, but if, again, we don't, I mean, we've been trying this childcare thing for 3 years now and haven't got the money for it, so we don't move forward with it. But would that be just put out an expression of interest, see if somebody wants to come in and purchase all the weight room equipment for, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that, and set up their own gym and let them charge and get it right out of our hands so we don't have to deal with it anymore. It is one of the things that actually makes money in the rec center from the way I understand it, but might be somebody out there that's in conjunction with whatever else they wanted to do, they may be able to make a run at it with this thing. Maybe not, maybe nobody wants to do it at all and we don't do anything with it, but just a thought process there to...
Interesting idea, absolutely. By having the gym in the rec center, it certainly would deter somebody from wanting to open another one. Interesting idea. Councillor?
And I mean, there's private gyms all over the place, Dawson Creek's got half a dozen of them, Fort St. John's got lots, and it seems to be the way of the future that, there's special ones that are just for women, that cater to different folks, just the thought that maybe we just throw it out there and it's something we get right out of. I know we'd thought about and toyed with the idea of getting rid of the golf course years ago. We put an expression of interest out on the golf course to sell the golf course and nobody really bid on it. We continued with it, but just, I don't know what council feels like that. It's just a thought that maybe we could do something there and see if there's any.
I think my opinion, I think it's certainly worth an expression of interest to see if there is somebody out there. No different than the golf course, I think. And it would deter somebody from trying to open a business here, certainly. Councillor Majinski?
Yeah, that's definitely, I think it'd be actually really worthwhile doing because our gym is very limited to what you can do in there. You can't do any CrossFit training. And that's, huge now. And we don't have that option here. For somebody to open up a business and then they have all the equipment to follow up with it, as well as doing Pilates or yoga or whatever, there's no open space in there. And I can think of downtown right now where there would be a perfect spot for it in the basement of the tech building. It's huge in there. There was a dance studio in there. It'd be perfect. It would be a perfect business opportunity for somebody. I think we should pursue this 100%.
Councillor Norbert?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. To Councillor Majinski's point, you're right, the current gym doesn't have any CrossFit stuff other than they have a couple of ropes in there, so that still doesn't stop somebody from opening it. And if there was money to be made, there's nothing stopping them. Same with yoga studios and Pilates studios. It's been attempted, but I mean, anyways, back to the point at hand. I think if we're not successful in our daycare grant application, then this should be explored. Then I think it's a good opportunity, but at this time, like if we get a new daycare facility, we could look at expanding the gym facility into the daycare, right? And then we could, we can expand our interest in generating money. Like that's something important to recognize with our gym too, right? Like we're always trying to find ways to offset costs, and I know that we usually get $2 million a year from revenue, right? And that's less that we have to collect for taxation. So it's I think if there's a need, and we need the space, then absolutely. So I think for me, it really needs to wait on the daycare application.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point there. I think for me, I wouldn't want to wait for the application decision. I think I would want to know even before the decision, if there was any interested parties. It would save us a lot of time in the path that we're taking, that's for sure. Councillor Lehman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I think because there's such a waiting list for daycare as it is, we wait until the end of March. I mean, perhaps nobody will be interested in buying the equipment, but if somebody is, and somebody's willing to bring in another business, I think it's a win-win. I mean, you know, you get a bigger space, hopefully, employs people, and then you have your daycare already done. So I think it's worthwhile exploring anyway.
Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Staff side, I'd just like to hear from staff side. The golf course might have been a little bit different than what's been proposed as an idea, and maybe it's not, but I just want to confer with the staff there to make sure. I think that's a fabulous idea to put it out there. I mean, it doesn't hurt to look.
I agree. Councillor Majinski.
So what if we do get the childcare space and we've already put this out there and somebody's actually interested, then what do we do? So do we say, oh no, you know what, we're not gonna expand, like, we're sorry, we put out this expression of interest, but now we're gonna back out on it?
No, I think, you know, the expression of interest is really to see if there is anyone interested in that equipment. And, you know, if we don't get anything back, we move forward on our plans. But if we do, then we know that somebody's interested and we can find room or find use for the space, I'm sure, in some way. Councillor Howe.
Yeah, and to me, it's just like any business proposal that you put forward. You throw an idea out, you see who bites on it, and it, you know, makes sense for the community in 3 months' time or 6 months' time when it actually comes together. Then you look at it. I mean, you might put an expression of interest out. Someone says, you know, I'll take it all off your hands for nothing and set it up in my own building. Where you might get somebody else that comes in that says, I'll buy it all for, you know, $100,000 and we'll set it up and guarantee you that the gym will still be here in 2 years' time. Because you got to weigh out the pros and cons of it. And to me, you're better off to have the information before you find anything out about the child care center. And then you can, you know, really make a even more informed decision that makes more sense for the taxpayers as well. So.
Okay.
And one more thing. What I originally put my hand up for is, Councilor Norbury, you just mentioned something. You said the number $2 million. I don't know where you got that number from, or were you thinking that the gym makes $2 million a year?
Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. In our, in the budget every year, we see how much revenue we generate through sale of services.
Right.
That's not the gym.
Okay.
That's everything we do.
Okay, just checking to see.
Yeah, total revenue.
I'm more.
Because I'll buy that gym right now. If that's right.
Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, again, I'd like some clarity from staff and what their opinion is of this idea. I just want to make sure that the idea makes sense.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Member Trent, through council. So our application that went in for the daycare was for a standalone building. So we had that discussion before about, you know, expanding in the center or going out. So our application is in for a standalone building. I don't know if the grant came through, if we'd be able to change it now in order to say, hey, we want to expand. Currently, we're in our building where we're at. Because we've already put out for the standalone building, which we've discussed, had discussions last year on. So we do have the standalone building that the has been submitted. So I'm not sure how that would work with the grant.
Right. I see what you're saying. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, so that's, I understand the grant process. I understand the grant went in for that. But again, I just in regards to the expression of interest, in regards to the gym, staff see any issues with it?
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. As it's only an expression of interest, it's not tying the council to the decision that comes either way, right? If somebody sends in an expression of interest, it says they're interested in it. It's not a definitive decision that has to be made. So we don't see any issue with sending out an expression of interest.
Right. Yeah, and I think as far as changing our plans to expand the shop in the center, I still think our original plan with the standalone building is the best option. You know, we'll find out that decision at the end of March, but the expression of interest isn't to change course on the standalone building. It's just options, I guess.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, community fishing hole. Counselor Kirkowka.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea. Or if there was any reach out from staff to the science teacher at the high school. And if there's any information back from staff in regards to this or not.
Ms. Thompson.
As this item didn't move forward last year in the budget, the staff have not looked into it any further than what it is and left it the way it was.
Follow-up, Counselor. Yeah, it is a beautiful spot down there. I just don't know if it's deep enough to become a fishing hole. As far as I understand, it's a shallow slough sort of thing. No in, no out, as far as I understand. So be pretty difficult to grow fish there, what I understand. Counselor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but other communities have done that. So they've actually reverted one of their storms or their storm water from a certain area into the pond and back out, right? So Lacombe, Alberta is one of them. So Lacombe has done the Len Thompson fish pond, so it's a fishing lure company that helps sponsor this, and they got the biggest lure at this pond. But the amount of kids when it first was built was a few. You build it, they will come, they say, well, there's tons there now. They believe they still hold a fishing derby there. So I think it's something, and maybe we should have a price tag of what it takes to do a bit of investigation from staff on this. Right? Like, there's talk about reaching out to our First Nation partners, reaching out to the science teacher at the high school. Maybe he doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. We have the same gentleman that runs a fish farm within the high school. And I thought their philosophy there was to always look at, there was an option, maybe they got that and they could show that it was viable for them to raise trout and fill that pond. And maybe they could be looking at doing some of the filling of our own lakes around the area through the government, so they could actually seeing some money come into that for them to keep going. So, I'm not sure what it was budgeted at last year to do a little bit of investigation, but that maybe should be something that we direct staff to come up with what kind of budget we looking at to do the minimal investigation in this. Talk to the First Nation partners. Maybe the First Nation partners are, maybe they have reasons why we shouldn't or why we should. Maybe they want to be involved because it also lets their own nations get involved with something like this idea. So, I do think it's still something that is very worthwhile to having that discussion and having some information back to say, yeah, it's viable. It's going to cost us $100,000 to revert water from our storm water. Not only do you have to, do that part, but we have to actually make sure it's allowed by the government to divert that. Instead of going to where it goes now, it really goes down to the pond. So,
Yeah, Counselor Norbury.
Thank you, Member Trent. I think, if we're talking a lot about staff capacity, we're having problems getting everything done. I really like the idea of a community fishing hole, but in terms of what things we don't need to work on this year, I think this is one of the least things we should be looking at, in my opinion. Because yeah, it's great, but there's also other places to fish. Yeah, I think you mentioned earlier, Calvin, we need to prioritize. I like it, but bigger fish to fry.
Okay. Counselor Kirkowka.
yeah, so I'm actually not looking into adding. What I'm asking for is a price tag to be put there so that we know what a budget, we're looking for $10,000 to be able to do some, I'm not saying for 2022. I'm going to be opposed to adding stuff to, because I'm, seriously, and no disrespect, but, we're at our limits, we're at capacity. To me, we have some things that need to be dealt with. And if that's the case, to me, we shouldn't be adding anything. Now, expression of interest, pretty simple, I would think. And that would have to be up to staff to say that, yes, that's capable to fit within their thing. But to start adding a bunch of stuff, and I said right at the beginning, I will not be in favor of that. But it doesn't mean that staff can't come up and say, geez, for $40,000, that would be a start. I'm not saying it has to be in the 2022 budget, it could be in the 2023 budget. Right? That's for the next council to look at. I am not looking at adding anything to staff's plate. I think we need to clean up what they're working on today.
Yeah, and all this list on page 5 and 6 is or would be in addition to staff at the moment, so keep that in mind. But I think this is a really good start to go through this list for our meeting tomorrow night as well. I think we're going to be able to reprioritize our strat plan, but also monitor and try to tie up the loose ends as well. Any other comments in regards to the fishing hole? Cogeneration feasibility study? Councillor Howe?
We had talked about this in a roundabout way with, I think it was called the Barclay Group. They were doing something in Fort Nelson where they were repurposing wells to do geothermal energy to produce electricity somehow. So to me, I think this type of thing needs to stay on the radar. This is important for diversification of the community that is not tourism related. I've been a staunch supporter many times in here saying that we need to do something different than tourism in Tumbler Ridge to try to generate jobs, try to diversify the economy, and I think that this is an excellent opportunity. We already have renewable resources around the community, and I think this takes staff time, for sure it does. I think our economic development department needs to put some time into this and start trying to come up with some way to, diversify the economy, right? That's the develop the economy. That's my take on it. I understand staff has their hands full with certain things, but I would prefer to have the economic development department come in and say, if you want us to take this on, we've got to drop this, or this is all the stuff we're doing. Are you sure you want us to do all this? Because we don't have the capacity to do this. So I know we've just got a new economic development person hired on. I'd be interested in their thoughts. Hopefully that they have some experience in this type of thing. And I don't think we can take our finger off of this button. I think it needs to continue. We need to find another way to get jobs in the community for the day that the coal mines shut down. And this is a great opportunity. We're already a renewable resource base, so I think there's possibilities here, and we got to continue with it.
I agree, and it's not just cogeneration. It's also, speaking with the Barclay Group, I think there's other options for renewable energy, including geothermal. I have looked into it with the BC Oil and Gas Commission to see if there has been any prospecting, I guess, for geothermal around here. Still waiting to hear, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Councillor. We do need to look at other ways to diversify, and cogeneration is a possibility, but there are others as well. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So on the operational strategy, economic development has one thing with the Crown land purchases. What else will they have on their plate going forward then? Because I definitely think that we should be looking at another source of revenue in our community or something, maybe it might not even be this, or maybe our new ECDEV might have some other ideas as well, and be interested to see what she brings forward in the next 3 to 6 months. But I'd like to know what else is going to be on their plate at this time going forward, so that when we were talking about all these deliberations, what else they're going to have, because it might be overloaded already, but it doesn't seem like it right now.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. So we've been without ECDEV for 5 months. I didn't have a director, and Ms. Finnegan started today. So it's pretty hard to set a plan in action for somebody that just started with us today. So she's going to need a little bit of time to familiarize herself with her department. And yeah, it might be a little bit slower, but at this time, that was the project that is on the strat plan, was something that was ongoing from last year. So I don't have a plan with her yet, as she has only been on the job for about 7.5 hours. So we weren't able to create a plan quickly.
Councillor Majinski.
So then it's fair to add this on there without any harm?
Yeah, I think, creating a new strat plan is going to include senior staff as well. Tomorrow's meeting is just council to start with, but the following meetings will include senior staff, similar to last year, to really have a collaborative meeting with all of us to see not only council's priorities, but staff's priorities as well, and see if there's any synergy there. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. It sounds great. Let's get a study going to get some jobs in the community. This isn't a knock, but I'm genuinely curious because I'm not, this type of guy. But what's the potential chance of getting return on our investment for a study, right? When we get the feasibility study done, we sort of send this out to existing organizations that already do this to try and lure them here. Is that kind of what the idea is? Does that work?
I would think so, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, Barclay Group, they're gonna be looking at a gamut of different options too. It wouldn't be specifically just cogen or biofuel or something like that. It'll be a gamut, I'm sure. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So just a bit of we've had a discussion with Barclay Group right before Mr. Powell left in August. So we did have an initial discussion with them, and I think going forward with the Barclay Group, a workshop needs to be held because they have a lot of ideas, but we have to decide the way we want to go forward with it. So at the time when we had initial discussions with them, they had a lot of ideas. However, we weren't able to move that forward at the time. So they were well aware that we would be, coming back to them this year, but it would be something that I think at a council workshop with the Barclay Group would be very beneficial to exchange ideas and figure out which way you want to move forward. Otherwise, it could expand beyond what costs that we have for that project.
Thank you. Councillor Howell?
And the Barclay Group was only a group that I just found. I saw them online and I said, look, we should contact somebody like the Barclay Group and see how it goes. Let's not pigeonhole saying it's just the Barclay Group either. Like you said, there could be all kinds of different opportunities, but if there are other service providers out there that want to do this type of stuff as well, that's, in my mind, economic development's job. Go find those guys for us. You have our support. We want to push your time towards you to go do that. We'll give you money towards it and see what we get out of it. I mean, Councillor Norbury's comment is, that's one way it could go. It could be that you find that, it would work in Tumble Ridge and you try to then find a potential suitor for that. But it could be quite different of how each company does it or whatever. I don't have all the ins and outs of it. Just trying to get direction for economic development to go chase something that'll try and bring in employment in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think of previous Mico Wind manager, David Durant. His new position now was similar to what the Barclay Group is doing as well, is trying to create business opportunities for local governments and his company. So, Barclay Group is one option. We could certainly reach out to Mr. Durant again. There is another option in Vancouver that I've been talking with as well. So it's certainly a priority, I believe, of this council to try and diversify, try and have some sort of job creation. So, this cogeneration feasibility study and the job creation efforts are really one and the same, in my opinion, and it's a matter of, like Councillor Howell said, supporting our new economic development officer director, to try and drum something up. Any other comments? Questions? So, next one is increased job creation efforts for Tumblr. I think we've pretty much figured out that is a priority. Councillor Norbury?
No, well, maybe I'll save that for a strat plan.
Okay. All right. Any other comments in that regard? Jump trail. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Yeah. I was in today, talked to Ms. Thompson, I went over the agenda, and I asked about the jump trail, if it could be added, and to see if the staff are willing to do this, to take it on at the project, or if we could hire in a company, because TRMBA is going to have a company come in to do the ground truthing of the trails this spring. And they are more than capable and willing to do this kind of work. That's their forte, is building jump trails, flow trails. And we need to do something here because it is a liability right now, what is down there. It's hasn't been maintained. It's got gaps in it, which are, I don't even know how that was approved in the first place, to be honest. Like, they should have been all tabletops. And there definitely needs to be a complete redesign of the whole area because there's one way down, there's no way back up unless you come up the same trail that you go down. So it's very dangerous. So, and it's for experienced riders. We need something there for the beginners, somewhere where they can progress from the pump track to riding downhill trails in an easy and safe manner. So that area is not going to be used for anything else. It's a perfect spot for it. And it could be very easy for staff to do as well with small equipment. And I think it'd bring a great deal of pride to the individuals that are building it, say, hey, I brought this to the community and helped out. And, you know, there's lots of people currently at the community center, Public Works, that have young children. So I'm sure they'll want to see the kids ride it one day and say, yeah, Daddy built this, right? So it's just one thing that we could add that the district's employees are bringing to the community, not just like a nonprofit or, for example, like we had a professional company come in and build a pump track. Those guys aren't around, right? So, but that's a completely different thing because you need professionals to do that. But with this, when it's dirt, we can also build in ramps, have a local company put in ramps so they don't have to be shaped or changed year after year. They're set in place. You just have to manicure the landings and you're good to go. So I think there could be some more dialogue between Public Works and myself or TRMBA, and we can see what happens there. Or we can set a budget to have somebody come in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I know Chris Leggett built it, with, you know, JCP money, job creation money. But my thought is this jump trail in the District of Blue Ridge's inventory? Is it ours? Are we responsible for it?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, we are.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I've shared my experience with that jump trail. As an amateur mountain biker, I injured myself going down that thing because I'm not willing to go over a gap on my bike. So when you go up on a gap, you don't go down, you go into the next ramp, right? So where I'm going with this is safety. It's a safety concern, right? Oh, hey, I'll admit it, man. Like, if I was all cut up and I was messed up because I went straight first, I was just, slam on the brakes. It would have been hilarious to see. But I mean, we as an organization need to understand that people are going to use these things. It's a safety issue.
It is. It is a safety issue, absolutely,
We need to
and
deal with it.
I agree. Councillor Howe.
So, like, my thought on is that if it is a safety issue and we own it, I mean, I've seen dozens of things around the community that, cutting the trees down on the golf course, for instance, and we can walk away from that, chopping trees down, leaving them all over the place down there, but we can't walk away from something like this that's a liability. If it is that big of a liability, get Public Works to go down there and rip the ramps out, make it so that it's safe for now. Then, if TRMBA can get in consultation with whoever they're bringing in, can look at something they can do down there. They're likely going to totally change what's down there anyways to make it safe or do their own spin on it. Then they come in and say, yeah, we could add a few lumps here or whatever, jumps there, and walk our Public Works guys through that. At the end of the day, it's still a liability to the District of Tumbler Ridge, right? So, where does that liability land? We've got liability with the pump track over here to some degree, right? I think we have insurance for something like that around, but I don't know. To me, if it's that big of a liability, we're that concerned about it, let's go knock it out this spring. Wait till TRMBA figures out what they want to do with it, and then if it makes sense that it's not a $200,000 project, then they can do it for $20,000 or labor of the equipment for a couple days. Go ahead, and then we go ahead with it. But take care of the problem right now, so that especially you've talked about it in here, and it's liability, it's recorded. If something ever happened now and we haven't dealt with it, then we're in real big trouble.
It's our land. I do believe there's a sign up at the beginning of that trail stating use at own risk or whatever it might say. So, our liability is limited, but it is something that, I don't know, I believe scorns the biking aspect that we're trying to create here. This jump trail, from what I've witnessed, has been a disaster right from the get-go. It was built for one person only, and unfortunately, he's the only person that was ever able to ride it. So I think it needs to be fixed. And that area in that valley there has so much potential as well. Like, not just the one trail. There's side slopes on both that comes down into a bowl. There's multiple trail options in that little area. So it is something that could be very nicely developed in that regard. So any other comments, questions? Councillor Kirkcalka?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I kind of sit with Councillor Hall. It's such a safety issue. Let's go fence it off. I mean, we have councillors up here talking about the accidents they've had, the bruises and cuts and scrapes they've had. And we have Councillor Majeski over there talking about the gaps and everything else. So I think we should go over there and fence it off immediately. If it's such a safety issue, I look over at staff and they're all kind of, oh, well, here it comes. And then when we talk about, oh, let's just have staff go over there with equipment and let's just have them do this and let's have them do that. Well, we don't have staff. I don't know, Ms. Thompson, if you can please fill me in if you're a grader operator, a dozer operator, and a bobcat operator, because you're the only staff we have. So my concern there is when we say staff, we're talking about Ms. Thompson. So if we want to get direction, I don't care who she uses to go and do what she has been asked to by council. But my other concern would be when we give that direction to have it done, how it gets done, whether it's through her staff or she hires a contractor. Who's taking the training later on to maintain it? Right? Oh, they can just go back and they'll just be able to rub the bowl and do this to keep it flat and do that. Well, we got to hit training. So we actually got to look at that aspect of it too. So if we're going to have to take over a jump track and we're going to put a budget to it so staff can go and fix it, hire contractors, whatever. To me, we also have to put a budget in place for the maintenance and the training to be able to do the maintenance, because then they're trained. So I think it's a bigger project than you think when we want to have it in-house done. I think the same thing Councillor Howell talks about, fence it off, rip it out, do whatever. And then let's put a budget line to it to see what can be done there and what it would cost to have it done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we spent whatever 200,000 over here, whatever the Tumblers Mountain Bike Association did, which they did a great job, so don't get me wrong, but to me, when we start trying to do stuff in-house, there's training involved and all that, and I think that gets more costly than bringing in the professionals to build it and maintain it. Because if you leave it as dirt, whatever you spend, you have to spend that percent of that every year to maintain it. I believe that is why the Tumblers Mountain Bike Association decided to go to an asphalt track, because of the maintenance costs. So I'd be concerned with that, but if there is a safety concern, it's been raised by 2 councillors, I'd like to hear from staff, because if staff think that's a safety concern and they're aware of it, I would hope when the snow does melt that we're fencing it off. I don't think ripping it out right away, but I think we should be fencing it off. I understand there's a sign. Your worship, you mentioned there's a sign on. What happens when I don't read the sign, right? If it's not right in front of my face and you don't put it in front of my face, well, geez, I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's there doesn't mean we're covered.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Trent, through council. So I walked the jump trail last fall, or I guess sometime during the summer, I guess July or August. And so yes, there are signs posted and we do have reduced liability because of that, because it is used trail at your own risk. We have not done any maintenance on it, but as far as me knowing what skill levels are required out there or what our liability is, because we do have signs up, we did reach out to MIA, and I will have to look into it again, but I know we had reached out to our insurance provider at the time about the jump track, and it's been a few months, or a few more than a few months, that I would rather bring that forward rather than comment on what it is right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Councillor Majinski?
And just to follow up on the gap, it has been filled. It was done by a bunch of volunteers as well as some of the district staff on a weekend. So they went in and filled it. So that has now been fixed, because I brought that concern up 2 years ago, and then it was rectified. So, but it was like that from when it was built originally. So, which should have been okayed in the beginning. So, but when I went down there, I noted that, and then so a district jumped on it, and a bunch of the volunteers came out to fix it. So it is somewhat safe. It's just not professionally done, built, standard wise.
Cool. Councillor Kirkcalka.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if staff can produce plans or the design for this jump track that was built by funds from the district of Tumble Ridge.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. From what I understand, there was no design or engineering. There is no detail that we currently have on file for anything regarding drawings.
Follow up? Okay. Yeah, I'd certainly be in favor of knocking those mounds down this spring, but I think this is something that we can talk about tonight as well. We can add it to our priority list there, if we would like. All right, is there any other items council would like to discuss? Councillor Howe?
So I got one here, just throw it out to council and see what you guys think about it. But this summer, when I was down in Penticton, I noticed a program that Penticton is using, their city uses. It's called the See Something, Say Something program. And basically how it works is they get a lot of tourists into the community in Penticton, and they don't know who to get a hold of if they see an issue or a complaint. So what they have is they have little signs that have like a contact number on them, and some of them have like a QR code. So you can take a picture of the QR code, and that would either send you to a place where you can get more information right off the internet about that particular site, or who you would contact, or even to file an email complaint or tip. So like they have these QR codes on the sides of garbage cans. So it says see something, say something. So if you come by and you notice that the garbage can is overflowing, you take a picture of this QR code, and it immediately brings forward an email that you could type in and say, hey, I was at this particular spot, noticed it's overflowing, and then it's sent into the community. So I just thought in Tumble Ridge, the QR code thing might work really neat for if we had, for instance, garbage cans or recycling. I heard complaints about the bathroom down at the Murray River Boat Launch overflowed this year. Down at Flatbed Creek, they could be utilized. And to take it one step further, an idea I had I threw to Charles Helm when they came in and proposed the TR Trail was to have QR codes on the backsides of all the TR trails and any of the tourist sites that people go out to, so they could click on a QR code when they're out at Quality Falls. Although there's a write-up on Quality Falls there, you could get additional information about Quality Falls, and you could also send something in to say, hey, we were in the area and we noticed an overhanging tree, or some other safety concern or something like that. So anyways, the program is called See Something, Say Something. I don't know if it's something that I understand staff is overworked, and we don't really want to add too much to their plate, but just something that I thought if we ran it by council and talked about it, it may be something that staff has in their minds to look at down the road as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Definitely. I think reporting in general, I think, is a challenge. I don't think a lot of our residents know that this is where the reporting comes from. A lot of us as councillors hear a lot of the complaints directly, and some of them we can address, but some of them we do need to transfer to staff. So it's something to think about, most definitely. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Bertrand. I think it's a great idea. Because most of the time, if somebody comes into our community, doesn't like what they see, they'll just leave and they'll badmouth. But if they have an opportunity to express what's going on, we almost have like an exit interview with every person who has a problem with Tumble Ridge, and if it goes to a source that we control, in theory, we're the ones who'll be able to take that information and do something with it. Versus like if it went to, somebody say would go to the visitor center and they would complain and. Okay, thank you, they jot it down. But it's like a game of telephone sometimes. Every layer you go through, sometimes it gets twisted or changed. But if it's straight from the source to us, we can fix it. Because, and I think it'd be great even for our residents as well. Because a lot of times, as you said, people come to us with complaints or issues. And I know myself, and I'm sure all of you, and I've gotten advice from others, we have to guide them to the right place, right? Thank you for bringing this to my attention, but realistically, this needs to go through here, and this could, save everyone some time and help cut through the red tape.
It certainly would add to efficiency, and I like that idea of, having value of people's opinions too. When they leave the community, it may not all be bad too. A lot of it's going to be good. Couldn't believe the community that was upon us or something, right? So It certainly would add efficiency, I think. Councillor Kirkowka?
So just on that, I mean, I understand that we're having another meeting tonight. It's not actually with staff, it's just with council. Kind of weird that we wouldn't have some senior staff there. I believe that's how we did it. And I understand when we paid for somebody to come in and do it, they did two separate ones and brought us together, so we were all looking at the same aspect. But I'd like to hear from staff their thoughts on the concept that just come out from Council House and something say something. I mean, like, what an idea. I've never seen it. I mean, obviously I don't travel everywhere, but I mean, I haven't even seen it in Banff National Park. I actually made it there for the first time in 2021. I mean, I drove through Banff, but I actually never stayed there. I mean, what a beautiful little area. And I mean, you see things. You see some of the bricks are popping up off their walkway or something. Like, wow, what a way to help out a community, whether it's safety concerns, full garbage cans, overflowing, porta potties. I'd like to hear from staff. I understand it's just something new that was brought out tonight, but I'd be curious I'd be intrigued to hear what their opinion.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand, through council. It does sound like an intriguing idea. I'm not tech savvy enough to know how QR codes are created. I do know that there would be a lot of back end work that would need to be done with it to the extent that we're talking about. You know, if you would click on a QR code and it would take you to a certain place on the website, or, you know, we'd have to ensure that it would be mobile friendly. So there's a lot of background work that would need to be done to it or with it. I think it is you know, the idea does have merit. And I do also want to note that we do also receive compliments for staff and for the community. I mean, see something, say something, you are correct. It doesn't always have to be negative. We do get a lot of positive comments, and I think that we have to look at that as well, that we do also get some positive comments.
Absolutely. Councillor?
Yeah, so and I get there's, you know, I'm not tech savvy either, so, but my thing is we have IT. We have an IT, or Ms. Thompson has an IT department. I mean, let me rephrase that. I think I'd like to know how we bring some of these ideas up. So to me, that's a great idea, Councillor Howell. How do we bring some of these ideas up to direct staff? Because my understanding is we're on a place here in the agenda. I'm talking about the council initiatives and capital projects. This is something we can say, geez, this is something we want a little bit of legwork done on before budget's done. So, I mean, I believe Ms. Thompson, I mean, I understand I'm not tech savvy either. It probably wouldn't be something that staff implements anyways. It's probably through IT department. But how do we have something so that staff can get us a basic number that IT comes back and says this is going to cost $10,000 to start the process, and we could have it active in 3 months. Or it's going to cost us $500,000 and be active in 10 years. Yeah. Right? Like, how do we add this item to have a little bit of legwork done?
Motion?
Okay. I'm taking your idea, Councilor.
A motion to add to budget deliberations. Or a motion to ask staff to prepare a brief report to add to budget deliberations 2022. Councilor?
So I thought in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we throw some ideas out like this, and if council supported that idea, so QR codes or whatever, see someone up on a laptop here, as long as a motion passed, staff took the direction just to go and get the basic. Yes, it can be done. Approximate is, you know, I can't remember what Ms. Thompson used for budgeting terms, whether it's Class D, Class E, whatever it may be. But to me, I thought that's how we done it in the past. It's not about getting into budget deliberating the budget yet, because we just want a basic idea. So I mean, yeah, we can ask for a report, but again, I believe at the last meeting we said to staff, you know, your turnaround is now, if it's normally 10 days for something, we're asking you to add another 7, so that's 17 days. If it takes 17 days and we start looking at the budget time that we've just moved tonight, we get into that timeline. So I'm not looking for a full budget on the concept Councillor Howell has, just a brief overview. Jesus, it's going to cost us $15,000 to implement. I think we'd be crazy not to. Now, if it's $50,000, we might have to have a discussion.
Right.
That's all I'm looking for.
So just basically a report, Ms. Thompson, would that suffice, or how would you like to handle this?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So what we did last year is when we did the budgeting, we had the items that council had wanted us to look into. A lot of times if we didn't know what the cost was going to be, or we had an idea because we made a few phone calls, then we kind of had that estimate amount. And with this program, say something, we can call Penticton and we can get a preliminary amount of what they did. And bring that back. It would be very preliminary, but like Councillor Kakalka mentioned, it might be 15,000 or it might be 150, and that may change what council's
Certainly.
direction is. So we would be able to bring back a general cost from what we can figure out, but we would never be able to bring an accurate cost to council.
Right, so would you like us to make motions in that regard, or how would you like us, because as far as, you know, discussing the initiatives, we've kind of narrowed in on what top 3 priorities of this list are, and then now Councillor Howe has added another interesting one. Do you want us to add motions, or have you captured the discussion and kind of figured out the priority there? Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. We would appreciate to have the actual motion, and it wouldn't have to be specific, right? We're saying like get a definitive cost on it, but to add this to the list for capital and council initiatives.
Okay, perfect. So I'll make that motion to add the,
If you have,
sorry?
you have one on the table already with the request staff to prepare for the.
Oh, did I make that motion? I was just throwing it out there. Councillor Kirkowka hasn't made the motion yet.
Oh, you had.
No, it was made, I'm just saying
Oh, just
how
talking,
we're
okay.
in that state of the agenda, and I just wanna know how we understand. I don't think it's right that we all know heads and staff starts going away and working on stuff. I made a motion, I just wasn't sure how you wanted to handle it, whether it was from staff, but again, I don't want a depth report. I don't wanna have to spend a bunch of time yet.
Yep. Yeah, so
I'm
it's,
just trying to get clarity on how that works. 'Cause
So it would be-
How's the idea?
yeah, so it would be adding to budget deliberations as a possible capital or council initiative. Correct, Ms. Thompson?
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Howe, did you want to make that motion?
Yeah, whatever that motion was, I just made it.
So the motion is to move the City of Penticton's initiative, See Something, Say Something, for budget deliberations. Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Discussion, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I know everyone's saying they're not tech savvy, but you know, I created a QR code right now. We could ship it off to get some stickers, slap it on the back for everything. Super cheap, and there's options. This QR code can send them to a website, so we could add a page on our website, like a contact me form. Create a new one. You could make it so that it'll automatically open an email for you with a subject line. So I opened it, man. Go ahead, Councilor.
So I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
So I mean, we could make it as simple or as, and I think it could be really, really simple, and that's what we should be looking for.
Mhm.
We don't want a whole lot of effort. We don't want a whole new website. We don't want new people. But we can do something as simple as, let's open up a website, an email, make some stickers, slap it on stuff.
Ms. Thompson, we do have a new digital marketing strategy at the moment. Would this communications be separate from that? Would it fall under the communications, or could this be integrated into Ms. Thompson?
I can't answer that right now. I have to talk to my senior staff. We have to find out some information. We know that our website is not, it's really heavy on the back end because it's old technology. We are looking at bringing an item forward to council about new website. But I'd like to talk to my staff so that we have, I can't just answer off the cuff saying it's going to be easy and I can pull this, that, and the other thing off of it. The digital marketing strategy was something that was completely different and had a lot more to do with our pictures and hashtags and different things on Instagram and that. But we do know that was, we're working on it, but it's not as visible as what we had wanted it to be, and that had to do some with capacity that I only had one person in that department trying to keep things running.
Councillor Howe?
And like, so the See Something, Say Something program didn't necessarily have the QR codes attached to it. It was something else that I seen while I was there, and I don't remember, but I remember it was something to do with like garbage cans and that you could scan this, but it's, with our motion is to incorporate that. So like, I just don't want staff to go down and look at the See Something, Say Something program, and it's like, okay, there's one telephone number, slap that on everything and we're done. The idea is to move to QR codes. That's the thought process behind this. I think it's been captured by staff anyhow, but I just wanted to mention that they may not be combined together. And we actually have an ace in the hole in Penticton as well. Angie Collison used to work here, and she's the corporate officer down in Penticton now as well. So
Nice.
somebody in contact as well.
Nice. Okay, any other comments? Councillor Kirkcalka?
Yeah, so just with that, and same with staff, I was going to thank Councilor Nobre that he obviously drew up one and scanned it, I got his email. Like, that's how quick that was. So, like what a great philosophy for not only our local residents, like, I don't think this is just for visitors and tourists and stuff like that, but even our local residents. You know, I mean, wow, like, that was pretty quick. I mean, obviously I could email him if I wanted to, probably get the response. So I think it's something that's, I'm not going to say it's simple, so no disrespect, but I mean, we have an IT department. Again, we can reach out to Penticton or whatever, but I imagine you called IT tomorrow and said this is what the council brought up. How do we make the thing go? I mean, we have a QR code right here on our own cleaning thing, so we're already using them, QR codes. So I just think like hats off to council how to bring an idea up that whether you've seen it while you're out traveling or whatever, but you know, this can make a world of difference. And I'm not sure for council up here, even staff that are here tonight, you know, traveling to Chetwynd, Dawson Creek, has anybody seen it? And we could be the first in the piece and lead this. And you know, with the worship sitting with the PRRD, this is something that could really go a long ways within the piece. Because not only can you use it for full garbage cans, a missing brick, whatever it may be, great comments by the staff that have cleaned the snow and such in our community. But we could also have our QR codes going up the Alaskan Highway saying, come visit Tilton Bridge with pictures of canoes posts. I'm assuming that could happen. So pretty intriguing when it's that quick, done by Councilor Nobre in regards to advertising. So.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. So any of these other items council would like to make a motion on? Councilor Nobre?
I'd like to make a motion to add lighting of existing streets.
Seconder? Councilor Lehman, discussion? Councilor Nobre?
Just to make sure that we're, you know, clear on what we're looking for, to also include the bear walks as well. Councilor Chesky brought up a good point. Lighting the bear walks, my concern is also the perimeter trails, but check this good.
I think bears can see in the dark, can't they?
But we can't see that.
Councilor Howe?
So, not, like I'll vote in favor of it, but I do have a concern about lighting up the bear walks. So the bear walks are in people's backyards, and now you've got this massive street light shining in your back window, and you know, people are trying to get to sleep and whatever. It may not be suitable for all locations. There may be some areas where they could be useful with a low level lighting, but I am concerned about adding this to just existing bear walks. We know the walking paths, there's already large lights in that area. You know, the paths are far enough away from people's houses. Bear walks aren't. They weren't lit for a reason back in the early 80s. So.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. My thought was if we were going to do something like they did in Chetwynd along the walkways, we could use those same style waist height poles to do the walkways, and instead of having those concrete cinder blocks there to prevent people or ATVs to drive down these bear walks, use those lighting systems. You know, one on each end, maybe one in the middle, and you can still snow blow or snowplow through or whatever if the ones that get used, right? But instead of having a big tower, you don't need them, because if we're going to be putting in those lower ones, like I can't imagine we're going to be putting street lights on all of our walking paths, right? But like if we had those smaller ones and made it consistent, have one on each end of the bear walk, you know, where they are, you know, and that, I don't think it'd be as intrusive, and maybe they do shut off after, well, probably not, I guess probably beneficial to have them on all night, but you know, they could be on a time or two or whatever, but.
Yeah, no, I think engagement of the community would definitely be important in this regard, especially for the bear walks. Councillor Howe brought up a good point about the lighting or light pollution for those neighbors of those trails. Yeah, I think engagement would definitely need to happen. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, so just a couple things. Councillor, can you just explain to me your motion, like, we're adding this to the budget for discussion? We're looking for staff to start working on costs?
Report on options and potential costs.
So when we did the previous one, it was for a cost estimate for budget deliberations. So that's what we're gonna get. I don't believe we're gonna get a report in time. So I would assume that it would be cost estimates. Is that correct, Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Member Trent, Council. So this lighting of existing trails may be, it will be a very detailed cost estimate. Or we're not gonna be able to find a very good cost estimate for it because you're asking for options. So it will take a lot of research to get to that point where we'll be able to bring something back. Are they gonna be hardwired? Are they gonna be solar? Are they gonna be 4 feet? Are they gonna be 8 feet? Are they gonna be this, that, the other thing? So that is, you know, I guess we can bring back saying we can, that one's gonna be a little harder to do because there are so many options that are out there. We do have lighting estimates from last year that was for the main walkways. We do have that, and we do have what Chapman had for solar. So we can bring back a few things, but it won't be as detailed as this is option A, B, C, D, and E, and this is how we do it, or for the whole community, because that's a larger project than just a quick report during budget deliberations.
Certainly. Councillor Hall.
You know, the downside with doing it like this, where we just go in and say, oh, we just want kind of a rough idea, and they come in and staff generally, don't quote me on this, but generally they come in with a cost estimate that is so high that it immediately falls off the radar. So I think that's what happened with the fish farm, or the fish pond. Originally, the cost that came back on that was $1 million. And the council was like, yeah, no, not interested. I don't care if it's 10%, not interested. We just walked away from it. So I don't know how accurate you can make these decisions based on this type of information. If staff is able to come back and say, yeah, you know what you guys see in Chetwynd with their little lighting, that cost them $100,000 and it was 400 meters. We have, 2 kilometers to do. Then you have an idea of a cost estimate. But when we're talking about, digging up asphalt and having to put power lines underneath that costs, they go crazy like that, right? It'd have to be, cheap option is solar or something, right? And each post would cost this. And if we want to budget $50,000 every year, we can do whatever, 10 walkways or something, right?
Yep.
So you got to be careful on these costs, because if they get blown out of proportion, not only does it fall off the table for us, it falls off the table for the next council, because they hear, oh yeah, they looked at that before and it's too much money, right? And that is what my concern is when you start going down this road.
Yeah, I hear your concern, Councillor, and I think possibly in the past there was some estimation of what the project would cost, and that was the number that was given to us, and I think Ms. Thompson is planning to bring forward not estimations but comparisons of what Chetwynd has done, what another option could be. So yeah, and I agree with you. If we can get a per post cost, or how many posts they put in for this amount and what was all involved, that's really the information that's going to help us move forward, I think. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Councillor Norbury that question, because that was my concern. It's going to come in, I throw a number out to you, and Council probably wouldn't like my number as well. And that's no disrespect to staff. I mean, they don't have a turnaround here. So we keep saying extended turnaround, but then we want these deep reports, and they're just going to throw a number out there. I mean, I was going to say staff has got some numbers already from reaching out last year. I think we know it's like Councilman Howard said, if it's 400 meters, this is what it costs, and we have an idea. So I just don't want, again, I'm really against adding a bunch of staff time when I hear that they are full, they're at capacity, we're not getting stuff done. We don't get to see that right now, so I can't speak to it because, and no disrespect, I understand there's some staff's concerns or staff issues that we had to push the budget off till February 28th. But in there, it's going to actually, I think it's going to have some of the stuff that didn't get done last year. To me, that's capacity. And we've heard that in every meeting I've been in the last little while, capacity. And my thing is I don't want to keep adding stuff and then we don't get anything that's done. So if they already have the numbers, and that's the numbers council is okay to look at and make it kind of hopefully a important decision, but also have the information we need, not keep pushing it back to get more information. My other concern is when we talk about bear walks. Now, at no point do we have to put the same wattage in a bear walk as we do on a walking path. So there's, again, I'm not asking for that in the reports. I don't want the report to peak depth. I'm pretty sure the numbers can come fairly quick. I have the numbers from Capital and Home already, as I reached out as well. So if that's all we're looking for, I will support it. But if we're looking for more in depth where we want, again, I'm not going to support that to have more capacity. So I just want clarity on the motion.
Yeah, no, I think we're looking for comparative information so that we can decide to move forward or not. And I think moving forward, we'll be, on any of these items, we'll be adding a budget to the budget for this item to research further. I think that's how I understand it. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Member Bertrand. And we need, the reason why I want this to move forward is we need that motion right now to move forward, or else it doesn't happen again. We don't talk about it again. So, whatever staff can bring to us, I'd like to see something. So at least we can see that information, or else, it may not. And that's.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'd like to move the jump trail be added to deliberations for council and capital projects. Seconder. Councilor Majinski. Councilor Howe.
Doing what with the jump trails? Like fixing that one jump trail or dismantling the jump trail?
Costs for dismantlement, bulldozer.
Okay.
At this point. And then I guess, we can decide if we want to move forward on it, but, that's my thought. Councilor Majinski?
Yeah, I definitely think it needs to be redone, but I think it should be redone, not just bulldozed. I think it has to carry the momentum what we're trying to achieve here with the biking. Like we have the cross-country trails, we have the pump track, we're trying to build our downhill mountain bike trails, we have a master plan, we have plans on going forward. If we just take this aspect out of it, I don't think that's helping, So I think we should look at getting cost estimates on getting it rebuilt or talking to the staff and seeing if they are willing to put the time in on this and what they think their cost would be versus a professional coming in. Because there is no proper ditching, no drainage down there that was done in the first place. Proper dirt compaction wasn't done. The lips and takeoffs were all different. So if we could come in and have welded steel platforms, just like the wall ride at the pump track built for all of the takeoffs, they're always the same, they're always consistent, they stay in place, alleviates a lot of the safety concerns and issues. So,
Councilor Kirkcalka?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So, yeah, I'm not in favor of what you just put there, I don't think, in regards to that. To me, if it's a liability, safety concern, put some fencing around for at this point. And I think we don't understand, it's not I don't understand. Maybe we should be looking for a report, again, capacity, but this is where this is an asset. I want to say it was $5,000 or something that was given to an individual to go down and do what was done down there. And maybe it was a little bit less, maybe it was a bit more, but 100% on the number. My thought there is an asset. Yes, it's not a complete asset, as there's some concerns. Maybe we should be looking for a report to come back. Yeah, probably not going to hit the budget discussion. Maybe it hits the tail end of our budgets to find out what can be done there. I mean, it might, obviously, it's probably the wrong time of year. It's probably 3 feet of snow in the bush. I have no idea. But maybe we should just be adding to the budget in regards to some cash flow to have a proper assessment done on the pump track with options. And no disrespect to Councillor Majinski. I honestly don't want to tell staff to go out and I want you to weld this and I want you to have these plates. I think it needs to come back. Now, whether they hire like the same kind of group that Mountain Bike Association brought in, don't care. Just put some money to it and come back to council. Yeah, maybe we make the end of the budget. Maybe again we have to come back and do unbudgeted funds, which isn't the greatest thing by council to be doing. But it's an asset. And I understand why it was built and such. But just to bulldoze it over, take that money and throw in the garbage can to a year from now or 2 years from now, whether it's a non-for-profit that comes forward looking for some extra cash from the council of the day to go and reconstruct it, when it could be half the cost now to fix it. That would be my only concern.
Yeah, so by making the motion, I'm pretty much asking staff to bring it to budget deliberations with a possible cost for our staff to alleviate the massive mounds of dirt there, and possible options moving forward, right? It's a matter of what is it going to cost to take a piece of equipment down there by our staff? Okay, do we want to do that? Okay, do we want to move forward and create an asset for the district? That's really what I'm looking for, is the cost right now, and then we can discuss later on. And realistically, in my eyes, this isn't a priority. You know, this is something, this is an add-on, in my opinion. You know, once the hazards are taken away on that trail, that priority goes way down the list for me, in my opinion. Councillor Kirkcalkin.
So just on that, was your motion not to bulldoze it? Did I misinterpret? Your motion was
To add
for discussion for bulldoze.
to add the jump trail to budget deliberations with cost to alleviate the hazard and possible solutions or possible costs to move forward. Council,
Can we confirm with staff that's the motion they got?
Ms. Thompson?
Not that second part.
Okay,
Can I just hear that?
yep, please.
The original one was that the jump trail be added to budget deliberations for council and capital projects.
Okay with that?
Yeah, I just thought you said, I thought I heard the terminology bulldoze.
Well, that's
Did I not hear it?
that's my thoughts on the matter, yeah. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Rather than burden this with staff, can't we shift this down to the TRMBA, the experts on mountain biking in the area? Get them to say, okay, well, this is what we need to get it up to spec, or this is who we should approach, and this is how much it's going to cost. Because it seems like whatever we're going to come up with, we're getting outside of our area of expertise, when I'm hoping we have an organization that can point us at least in the right direction. And maybe we can, just hand this off. If they came up and said, hey, it's going to cost us $5,000 to talk to an expert on what needs to be done, or, we have some people that know what standards are, this is what needs to get done, right? I think guidance, we can get guidance from an organization in town, we should utilize that before we get our staff on it, is my thought.
There's opportunity for staff to collaborate with their group as well, and I'm sure Ms. Thompson can, or is planning to do that in this regard. Councillor Majinski?
As far as all of the hazards and concerns that were down there, they've all been rectified. There were some down trees or some stuff that was in the way, that's all been cleaned up and taken care of. Right now, it's just getting it up to a standard where it's not eroding because of the drainage and stuff like that. So proper ditching and trail speed is the name of the game here. Like, everything is different speeds. Like, you roll into one jump is way too fast, next one's too slow. You're coming up short, you're going too far. You need a professional to have the momentum to go down. So you want to have one consistent speed. And that's the name of the game. So you're not hard on the brakes, you're not creating brake ruts, you're not skidding, you're not, So when I brought this forward to the CAO, she was confident the staff could work on this as a side project to get it up and build something, But my concern is the professional quality and what's going to happen, the longevity of this. And me being on TRMBA as a president, I've been doing this a very long time. And I know I've built trails, I've done this, I've maintained trails, and the way to do it is have a professional come in. It's going to cost more, yes, but at least you will have a warranty with it. They will come in and fix any deficiencies down the road, and a lot of these companies, that's what they do. They will come back and reassess a year later to make sure everything is working properly and nothing has failed. And I believe that is the way to go, is to have a company come in and do assessment on it. Like, yes, TRMBA does have contacts, and we have had people, and we're supposed to have people come up this year to do the ground truthing. We could maybe collaborate and do that at the same time. When they're here, they can come and take a look, and then they can give us a cost estimate, and then that would alleviate some of the staff time going forward there too. But as to have TRMBA take it over, that's a whole different topic because it's district land. And TRMBA spearheaded the pump track, which had to be in conjunction with the district. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of sponsorships, a lot of grants coming in for that, right? So this would be potentially funded by the district of Tumble Ridge. And yeah, maybe the TRMBA can overlook it and provide quotes or companies that could provide quotes. So there could be a cooperating way, but I don't think TRMBA necessarily should take it on unless the district is going to have some input and say in this, right? So it can't be just because it is pretty much TRMBA coming in and trying to clean up somebody else's mess, realistically, right? Where I would reserve to say, yes, I'd be okay to do that, but it would almost be us taking on the liability to fix that, right? So if you guys are gonna go in there and bulldoze it, then I don't think that's the right way either. I think you have a professional come in, they can clean that up and do a completely new design.
Let's just be clear, the bulldozer was all my idea. I would take a bulldozer because I would like to drive one, but yeah, I'm not suggesting bulldozing. That was just what was on my mind. Councillor Howe.
So the narrative on this is starting to change as we start talking about it. Originally, we had talked about liability. The word liability came out from your mouth, Councillor Mitchell. And now you're saying, no, we don't have a liability issue there anymore. We got a drainage issue. We got this and that. So to me, we can't take your word on how you could fix the pump track. We took Chris Leggett's word on how to do a pump track, and then we're left with the Chris Leggett pump track. So it has to be a
Jump trail,
professional.
yeah.
It has to be somebody. So we've got two options here. We either go in and we take care of the liability issue, and staff says it's going to cost us $3,000 to go dig this up with a backhoe or whatever they need to do. And the second one is it's going to be whatever, $10,000 to bring in Velo Systems or whatever the name of that group is to say this is how you're going to build that. Then you need to put money towards to do that. So if you're asking in this budget that we get the money towards a contractor to come in to tell us how to build it, plus the money of actually building it, that's too quick to be done in this budget in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we look at, the staff report says it's not going to be much to go down and knock that thing out. It'll be an afternoon to go down and pull the thing apart. And then the second part of that is ask staff to find out what professional group can come in and say, this is how you would build a jump track in there, and then a cost estimate from them on what it would be. But to me, we got one option here. If there's actual liability out there, it needs to be dealt with now. We're not gonna have enough time in this budget discussion to get all that stuff done. There's too much there.
I agree. Councillor Norbury, then Kirkowka.
Thank you, Member Trent. So my concerns was the jump that didn't have the hole filled in. If Councilor Nitzke is saying that, yes, there's liability, we have signs that limit our liability, I think it does make sense to just find out how much it would cost to get a professional to come and look at it. Because it might be better to try and save an asset, but I think, the TRMBA can just give us that. Go talk to this person. And my concern is burdening staff with, reaching out to people. I'm not saying that TRMBA should take over the jump track, that's not it at all. What I'm suggesting is that we go to the TRMBA, who do we know that can come take a look at this? What's that cost?
Collaboration, yeah. Councillor Kirkowka.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just some clarity, if I may, from Councilor Majinski. You mentioned in your comments that I talked to Ms. Thompson, and she figures staff can go down and do that. Do we need to add that into the budget for her to have staff do it, or she has that in her budget? Or are you sure? Did you make a comment saying how you went in and talked to Ms. Thompson, explained to what was going on, and she figures staff can go down and do that? Is that within her budget already, or is that something that's being added to the budget?
No, they said they were confident they could work on something like this as a project. So I was like, okay, well, then that's why it's in here now to discuss it. Capability, skill set, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I just think we need clarity on the motion that was made, because I just want to make sure, I kind of agree with Councillor Howe just said there, so I just want to make sure I'm clear with the motion that has been written down by staff.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you.
Excuse me. The motion was that the jump trail be added to budget deliberations for council and capital projects.
Okay. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any other items, council? Okay. Notice the motions this evening? Council business? I think these two actually are a mistake. These are special, this is a special budget meeting, so I don't think these notice of motion and councilor's business should be on here, so we'll skip to question and answer period. Ms. Thompson?
I have none.
Thank you. Adjournment. Councilor Kirkowka,
That's Monday, January 24th, 2022 budget council meeting be adjourned.
seconder, Councilor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. No. It would take the whole year to try and plan.